Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast brought by Closers.io, where we explore the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Milan Kohut, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced, the lessons learned, and the strategies fueling future growth. Today, I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by Anna Bullock, the founder and CEO of ABX2 Agency, founder of Love Your Business Mom, and an online workspace architect through Anna Bullock Custom Solutions. She specializes in project management, custom integrations, low-code and API automation, and building efficient work management solutions using platforms like Asana, ClickUp, and Monday.com. After leaving her agency role in 2021, she now delivers hard-hitting business survival lessons with a mother's honest edge, alongside technical ops expertise that has streamlined operations for modern teams. With that being said, Anna, let me officially welcome you to Founders Future.
Thank you. I feel very welcome, and I feel like this conversation is happening at the perfect time. You mentioned Anna Bullock Custom Solution. I actually recently made the decision to close that particular chapter in regards to my one-on-one consulting because ABX2 Agency really absorbed that work, but it's with a collaborative team and we can deliver faster, we can deliver even better, right? And so I'm actually getting into some new founder ventures that we can discuss as well. So I'm very excited to have this conversation.
Oh, yeah. Okay. It's a beautiful timing. We just had a fun little conversation before we even hit record. We're talking about you being an honest person, an open book. And people who listen to this podcast, they know me well at this point, and they know that I love those kind of conversations. And honestly, there's a lot of different things that I would love to cover with you. So we're just going to dive right into all of this. And how
Let's
I
do it.
typically open up, yeah, with every single one of my guests is with a bit of a time travel, really. So before you even launch your current company or companies at this point, what was that journey like for you before? And then eventually, what was the motivation for even getting into this space?
Absolutely. So the journey is why I'm good at what I do now. I was a very restless and entrepreneurial child. And so as soon as my parents would let me, I started a babysitting business in my neighborhood. A lot of people who needed help with their kids, a lot of people who were elderly and they wanted to watch their grandkids, but they needed some support. And so from a very young age, I've been working and I did many of the traditional entry level roles, which taught me a lot about business, everything from my first fast food job when I was in high school to working in hospitality and working my way up the ranks at a restaurant to front end manager and things like that. I also got into corporate after that period because I wanted a better schedule. I'm tired of working till 2 a.m. every day at the
Anna,
restaurants. And
I'm so
yeah, of
sorry. Can I interrupt you? Yeah,
course.
I'm so sorry for this. I feel like something is really playing against us, but I don't know
Oh,
what
what
just
happened?
happened with your audio, but it
It
just
went
got
out.
really, yeah, it's like a little bit robotic right now. It's like very
Oh,
echoey. I don't know if it's the headphones, maybe just like dying
I
out or
think
something,
so.
but it just got worse. So I'm like, okay, I don't want you sound like this the entire conversation. I'm so sorry, but
I can start over. Do I sound any better now? Can you
oh,
hear me?
Jesus Christ. Okay, this is like 100 times better.
Okay, awesome. So
Okay.
sorry about
All right.
that.
You know what? I'm sorry for the interruption, but this is going to be much better. So thank you for fixing that. And yeah,
Great.
so you were talking about the babysitting business, then the next one, and you just started talking about getting into corporate something, yada yada. So we can continue there.
Okay, perfect. So after years of working in retail, hospitality, food service, those kind of environments, events and catering, I got into kind of the opposite end of that world, the people we were serving, which was the corporate world. And I was an office admin at a local campus of a business, and I worked my way up in that company. They had 150 employees when I started, and by the time I got into sales and marketing and was covering maternity leaves for people in the C-suite, they had over 700 employees when I left. So I saw growth at a rapid scale. I saw a lot of interesting and confusing choices from leadership that I think ultimately made that growth more of a trap than it did an ability for them to expand. And so I decided to pursue other ventures because I realized I'm giving a lot of value and I could make a lot more money with these skills if I did it for myself versus this job that I've been hammering away at. Throughout that course, I actually moved across the country just to get enough of a raise to cover daycare. So it was one of those kind of situations.
Mhm.
But then the pandemic hit and there was a lot going on. We needed the schedule because we had to watch our kid and that wasn't happening. So I took a step back, worked an inventory role at a warehouse, put myself back in a new entry level role. and eventually was able to secure enough contracts and secure enough clients to go into full-time business for myself. So I would say 2020, 2021 was a very chaotic year. And for me personally, though, it's what launched my career because I'd been working remotely in corporate for a long time before everybody was like, what is Zoom? And how do I do this on the internet? And it was a huge advantage. To give you the short of my current founder career, I started with VA work, research, project management, and I had to constantly adjust these tools like Asana, ClickUp, and others to get my work done effectively. And I realized that niche skill was something that was very in demand as people were spending a lot of time putting information in multiple tools. It wasn't connected. It was more of a headache. It wasn't doing the role it needed because people don't understand systems design if it's not their trade. So that's a large part of what I do and the journey that got us here. And now my agency that I work with my incredible business partner, Abdullah, we do that kind of work together because the more the merrier, the faster you can get things done.
Absolutely. And one thing that I love to say pretty much on every single episode is just the fact that when it comes to business, I know for a fact there are some people who are expecting a linear journey and, hey, this is going to be a straight line for me. Like, I'm clear on what I need to do and where I'm heading.
Yeah.
But it's never like that. Like, you really have to stay on your toes and just be adjustable all the time and go through all of those pivots. Well, with you, it sounds like there was like 15 of them until you got to this point of, okay, hey, now I'm doing the business on my own and it's
Mhm.
going well. So I love that. And also, just to emphasize this a little bit, I think the more, I think the evolution of corporate world and like the standards that we're used to today, it's just keeping the majority of those people away from those dreams and of this kind of mindset of, hey, I could actually make this happen on my own. So I just love to see that you were brave enough to actually explore that. So that's always beautiful to me. And Anna, let's talk about you gave us a little bit of a sneak peek as we started this conversation with saying, hey, I was more on the side of consulting. Now it's steering towards something a little bit different. But we're just going to talk about overall where this journey got you and what the business looks like today. So, with that in mind, to build some clarity, who is that person or that company that you currently describe as your avatar, if you want to call it that way, or the ICP, the ideal client that you want to serve? And which of those services that you currently provide are the biggest focus for you?
Absolutely. As you mentioned, I'm the founder of many things. So I have the agency, which is my, of course, main role where we do things in people's workspaces. I would say my avatar there is, it took me a long time to hammer this down because the work I do obviously can help any business. I feel like every business gets in that trap of who do we really serve? But I would say the most common thread is disconnected teams with a creative process. And the reason I say that is I see a lot of themes in the people who come to me looking for work. It's publishing agencies, it's marketing teams, it's production studios, but it's also construction managers. It's also people with these very technical, often in-person jobs who have someone in an office, someone in the field, they need to connect everybody, or they're just developing something like a product. My avatar is not simple, but it does follow a common thread. I would say teams that have disconnected various cross-functional roles is probably the best way to say that. And they are often in some kind of creative or development process.
Now, when it comes to the client journey and what they actually go through and what it feels like to be
Mhm.
working with Anna, to shine a bit more light on those core offerings and those core services, what does that
Mhm.
look like for your clients? What are you focused on the most?
Absolutely. So people come to me at different stages. They either come to me when they're planning for the future, they're in the middle of a big change they didn't properly prepare for, or everything's on fire. And so each of those clients gets a different version of the service. But ultimately, there's an initial audit of what's actually happening. And very rapidly, whether it's myself individually or me and my team at the agency, learn what do you do? How is it happening? Where are our bottlenecks? What are we doing well? There's a bit of process development because a lot of teams have different processes with different people and don't realize, or it lives in someone's head and then they go on vacation or they change roles and everything falls apart. So it's a lot of understanding and auditing the business, formalizing, not to an extreme, but just understanding the main workflows, the main processes for them to serve their customers and to run well internally and stay profitable, of course. And then it's development. Then it's where can we automate something? Where can we simplify a process because it shouldn't be 17 steps? And then customizing any type of technology they use, any processes to reduce meetings, reduce emails, make sure there's some source of truth of what's happening in my company, whether I'm an individual contributor, like a graphic designer, just going, I don't care who the client is. What are my things to build today? What are my things to design today? Versus all the way to the executive level of I need to see the team. I need to see this angle across clients and making sure that their system has all the necessary components to show those views depending who you are. So it's very involved work. I've learned a lot about a lot of industries because I have to learn their entire business model to do it. And I think by the end of it, people are less concerned about not having visibility, whether they're what does leadership want me to do versus what is my team getting up to. They're a lot more confident that they're serving their clients. Typically, I see they're hitting their deadlines more aggressively. They go from either on track or late to early most of the time, and they are able with these systems and this empowerment, that's my favorite word to say, because it's not this admin headache. They're not constantly stressed trying to run their business. They're just running it. Then they can grow, right? So it's like then they have the breathing room to develop their service, to reposition their brand, to triple their customer base and actually handle it because they've been empowered to run their business, not just efficiently, but in a more aligned way based on how they work. Because 70 different marketing teams have totally different workflows, and people are really shocked by that. But once we get to know that, we key into what they do well and help them do more of it.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned this because the entire time as you started describing this in more detail, this is exactly what I was thinking about. If you look at the current landscape of people in your industry, most of the time you see somebody who developed their own method when it comes to growth strategy and how to get more visibility, exposure, get new clients, scale the business, which is super attractive. But I feel like oftentimes we're missing this link in between that current stage and the scaling stage, right? And that's you. That's literally building and simplifying the systems so that you can actually scale. So I completely love what you're saying. And I know that this varies from case to case, from client to client, from the stage in which they actually start engaging with you. But if you could maybe just give us a hint, but on like how long does it take on average for you and your team to like really step into the picture, start communicating with the client, and really get them from point A to point B and set them up for success?
Absolutely. And this is my most difficult question that I always have to pose to clients. It depends on, because they're running a business and because they already have things to do, it depends on their availability and their collaboration. And so if there's someone who says, hey, this is a slow part of the year, we just want to dive in, get this done, and start following a new process, that can be an intensive. We have services where it's like you're meeting with me multiple times a day, or we're constantly going through approvals. Within a couple of weeks, you can have a fully new way to run your business, especially for small teams. I would say with larger teams or with people who have a lot of things going on, they can't trim down their schedule because they're extremely busy. That can take a few months. It really is them slowly working in over time. If we're being, you like that I'm candid, so I'll be honest. One thing that I learned that I'm so glad I learned that helps me serve clients better now is that when someone has a lot going on and it takes longer, the longer the project goes, the more it's going to realize that we need. And often you can get lost in that. And so in those processes, we've developed a much more streamlined way to start with an MVP with those type of clients. What's the bare minimum system from marketing, research, and sales to delivery and follow-up? And then we build on that and add features over time. Whereas someone who gets an intensive service, we're just doing everything all at once. And this is what we do now. And you can upgrade it, but like it's just there from the beginning. So that's been an interesting part of the journey and definitely one of the bigger challenges with that.
Yeah, 100%. That's an interesting observation. Anna, I'm gonna switch it up on you a lot right
I'm
now
great.
because
I love a
as you
pivot.
started talking about your clients, at this point, you already know if it is something regarding marketing, sales processes, we want to be able to talk about it. And especially when it comes to your business, I feel like a big part of having a good client acquisition model in place is just knowing that the alignment is there. I feel like this is one of those offers where that person really needs to be stepping in with a good mindset and perspective. So obviously, you have to be selective. And when it comes to that, you also have to have a good enough volume and exposure.
Yeah.
What is it that you guys do with your own marketing strategy to make all of this even happen and continue to onboard new and new clients?
You're going to love this honesty because we are a younger agency. So Abdullah and I separately had individual careers as consultants. We still do. He is very much someone who is the like high growth operations, years and years of agency experience, logistics, that kind of world. And I'm, as you have heard, the various experience, understanding business from a systems mindset across all the different roles because I've done all of them. And so when we work together, when it comes to client alignment, one of the things we have to consider is two things. This kind of work is surprisingly emotional for people, especially founders themselves, which we understand as founders ourselves. It gets very meta, but it's very emotional work. And so, in order for someone who would very much benefit from the service, they have to be in a place where they're willing to take criticism. They're willing to hear what their team's been scared to tell them. They're willing to really critically look at their business and anything that they're doing that isn't aligned to the goals that they told us in the beginning. So, I would say we always work with people who are open, who in the early or audit or discovery phases are open-minded, they're firm in what their goals and their needs are. We never want to change that, but they're willing to look at themselves too critically, because otherwise you really are going to hinder the ability for the system or the things that we build for you to actually help you. The second thing is tension. This is less common with like solopreneurs or teams of 2 or 3 people, which are a large amount of people who need this kind of service. But with larger organizations, whether they're big agencies, whether it's like a construction firm with 50 people, an IT firm with 25 or 2,500, because the organizations are large and often need this better systems, better communication, there's often tension, and it's not a dislike between people on the team, but it's often misunderstanding of priorities and being with people who are willing to let us dig in, get to know the team on an intimate level, get to know what's actually blocking them. Because one of the things I think a lot of consultants and a lot of agencies in our kind of space fail their clients on is they will build something that looks beautiful and really helps the person paying for it or really helps the people in a position of power, but then they're ultimately limiting what can happen when it really works well for the team too. I think, having been in a lot of entry level positions, I know that those are often looked over or they're just not understood because a founder doesn't have time to do the day-to-day work that person's doing. I would say that's another big thing, is like being willing to identify the tension and address it both internally, the things we can't control, and letting the systems address that tension by solving those gaps in what are my priorities, or like, where do I find this information? And that's where we find the best clients, is the people who are like, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, but we are willing to really look in ourselves and look in our team and get it together and all have the same goal that works for everyone, not just the person who's making sure that we get paid. So
Yeah, I think they definitely have to be coachable, like you said yourself. They need to be ready for that change. Now, what has been the secret for you in terms of getting in front of those? Is it for you and Abdullah, is it about running ads? Is it about creating content? Is it about network? What has been working well?
So we're very fortunate that a lot of our work comes from either exposure through things like webinars. We've both done webinars for companies like ClickUp. I had a feature in Notion for this like idea box I built where it's throw it here and here's how it works, right? So a lot of just good PR and exposure in terms of scale. But one thing that really helps us convert, and one thing that really helps us find the clients who really want our service and are willing to do that work we just talked about in order for it to be successful, that becomes a combination of content, which we're both definitely ramping up. I have a whole content plan. By the time this episode comes out, we'll probably be live, because people just don't understand what this type of systems work is, what these kind of things entail, but we make it really fun. We often use fictional characters, like these kind of like scenarios that are fun for people to get the concept. And once people get the concept, they're like, oh, you guys can help me solve this weird problem. I did a webinar once that was Bob the Builder. Can he fix his leaky pipeline? And this guy literally, he texted me, I'm Bob. This is what's going on in my business. Makes it accessible. I would say exposure helps us reach a lot of people. Content helps us actually help people understand what our work is and why we do it. One thing that I don't think we do well enough, that we're definitely planning to ramp up as we found some awesome people to slowly grow our agency and collaborate with on projects, is doing things like community engagement. There are so many people, when we posted our wait list, that were like, oh, I would love to be in a community where we can just talk about our systems and talk about growth and collaborate with each other and get some private webinars. So we really want to lean into the education side, because there is a huge gap between someone needing the support, someone understanding that they actually need the support, and then not only being ready and willing, but able to understand. We break things down in layman's terms. We try not to use a lot of corporate speak, but this work can just sound like made up garbage to people if you don't take them from point A to point B, because it's very meta. It's very in the back end. It's the stuff they don't think about. So I would say that's the area we want to add more, is things like community management, putting out a newsletter, having fun modules for people to do on our website to figure out problems. And that's definitely where we're headed next.
All great ideas. I love the sound of this. But let me tell you one thing. This is going to be a hell of a lot of work. Pretty much on a day-to-day basis, if you look at those, all of those tasks that go into it. So my question now is, thinking about the team that you're building here, obviously there's going to have to be a lot of people on the done for you side and on the side of fulfillment delivery. But are you like intentionally building this in a way that also your own marketing department will grow? There is going to be people purely just thinking about like how to market ourselves better, maybe having salespeople taking calls, onboarding clients for you, or what is the overall vision that you have for your own internal teams?
You see me. You see me. So, yes, one of my greatest talents is not actually my talent in just the work I do. It's seeing the brilliance in other people. It's part of why when we work with businesses, we can go, this is what you do really well. This is how you stand out in the industry. This is what you need to lean into more. We're taking the same approach with our team. We are not a traditional agency. We didn't start with any kind of, oh, here's our seed funding or whatever it is, right? We also didn't go, let's hire 100 people and scale like crazy to get the cash in. We have grown this really intentionally, truly started as a 2-person team, and we have very meticulously started recruiting, bringing on, we have a brilliant person who is a VA, and he's starting to come on in a project capacity, not only to hold us accountable, because let's be honest, but also to help us with a lot of that day-to-day work that we drown in, doing those repeated things, doing that done for you part of the implementation. I've already got my eye on a few people for social media management long term to help us with the community. I have talked to a couple of brilliant women in marketing who I think can really speak to our unique voice and help us get to the right people. Excuse me. Yeah, so what I would say the long-term goal, Abdullah and I both have that long-term experience. We have the vision. We can do the work. We've been doing it for years, but it's finding the people with the hyper-specific skill, putting them in that role, being willing to let go of control and slowly let them take it over while making sure it matches our vision. So you hit that right on the head. That was correct.
Yeah, which is not easy, 100%,
At
because
all. And it's
I
slow.
love talking about this because every single founder, like to a certain extent, is like, hey, this is my baby. I build it up from the ground up. So it
Yeah.
makes sense. And you also set certain standards, and there's a lot of integrity that you're putting into your work. So the idea of letting somebody overtake and just take control over certain aspects of it, it is scary. But at the
Yeah.
same time, like we understand that there is a limit to like what we can do like humanly possible. There is a cap to it, unfortunately. But with
Yeah.
this in mind, though, I want to look into your goal setting and especially like through the lenses of short-term goals, maybe just
Mhm.
till the end of this year alone, 2026. For you and your business partner, what are some of those biggest targets? Maybe revenue that you guys want to hit, maybe some milestones that you set for yourself or the
Yeah.
business. What does it look like for you?
Absolutely. So I would say the first thing that helped us inform these goals is for the earlier clients that we've had. And when you're building something, it's beautiful and it's awesome, but it's never perfect from the start, right? It's always evolving, it's always improving. We have made it a huge goal for ourselves to get really honest, hypercritical feedback. Even if 99% of everything was perfect and you loved it and you have no complaints, where could we have communicated better with you? Where could we have solved a miscommunication because of either how we relayed information or how we collaborated with your team? And so taking that feedback has been extremely helpful for us. And one of our main goals is to first, after all of this data, all of these clients working through these projects, really hone in on where do our processes need to improve. It's hard to do that work on yourself, but we're very deep in that. And so we've been really revamping the speed from discovery to the initial MVP implementation. That's always the hard part in the work we do. Now it's actually the easy part. And we found a much more streamlined way to make that happen before getting lost in the different automations and the different nuance and all the individual workflows. So taking a look at our own operations so we can be more efficient before we scale, because we've just seen the opposite too many times with the companies we support. The second thing is revenue. Of course, long term, the more brilliant talent we can bring on, the more we can grow, the more people we can serve. Because, like you said, neither of us work 40-hour work weeks. We're founders, so we work up way too many hours a week, and we like it that way. That's how we like to live. The more revenue we bring in, the better people we can add to our team, and the more clients we can serve. So, I would say, revenue wise, we definitely want to get to the point where we're hitting 50K months without a question. And a part of that is more exposure, more content, a bigger lead pipeline. We get all of our clients have been inbound. We haven't had to reach out individually and say, hey, I offer this service. Do you want it? So that's a huge success. And it's proof of concept for us that like people need and like this service. But eventually, of course, we want to add an outbound strategy. Of course, we want to increase the volume of inbound so we can hit those revenue goals. We don't need to be billionaires, but we do want to be extremely profitable with a team that's getting paid extremely well. We don't Controversially, we don't do the outsourcing method that so many people told me we should have done, where we just make our business less effective, outsource it as cheap as possible, and then just let it grow. We offer extremely high quality service that I would argue really outperforms some of the bigger agencies that maybe charge a lot more and have these humongous teams. We don't need 45 people to do this because we're paying them really well and they're really fast. So that's what
Yeah.
I'll say here in terms of the goals is making it really sustainable. Both of us want this to be something that we do for a very long time, not just something we did once and closed down. We're not going to launch a course. It's like, here's how I sold my six-figure agency. Like we really want to, and no shade to people who do that. I think that's an incredible business model. And I think in a lot of industries it works. But for us, this is the work we love. So we want to make it sustainable. We want to keep the same people around and add more people over time. We don't want to have turnover. We don't want to have that kind of churn.
Yeah, look, maybe it's going to be a part of what you do in the future. Like you never say never, but at the same time, it looks like I gotta say I agree with the perspective that you have, especially when it comes to keeping your people happy. Like I can definitely relate to it because I think yes, it does take longer for the company overall to be just much more profitable compared to having subcontractors and whatever the case might be. But it's just gonna, if we talk about the quality of your work, and like I
Yeah.
mentioned several minutes ago, the integrity that you're putting into your work, that's a different discussion. I love the perspective that you have. Let me ask you one last question though. And Anna, at this point, you already know this, but a part of what I love to do on this show is not only talk about the exciting stuff, but also the not so good stuff of the business, right?
Yeah.
For you to see this kind of growth and see this kind of scale and achieve all of this, what are you expecting to stand in the way the most?
What am I expecting to what? You cut out.
Yeah, what are you expecting to stand in the way the most, or like
Ooh.
become the biggest challenge of seeing this kind of growth?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, if I'm being super honest, perfectionism. We are both really proud of the work we do. We do extremely great work. But in the work we do, we've definitely both individually and as a team had to learn what is something that needs to improve in quality or is necessary for the work to be more effective, and what is something that we do this work every day and we just know there's this hyper special perfect way we could do it, and identifying when to take those choices, right? When do we pursue the perfection? When do we say this is literally 10 times better than it ever was, and that's good enough for now? I would say that's been the biggest challenge that we're working to overcome. We're getting a lot better at it, and I'm super proud of us as people and as business owners. And I would say the only other challenge is that education gap that I talked about, because like you said, we only have so much time in a day, and we're already working on it. It's going to be really great stuff. I'm very excited to start populating our website with it and populating our social feeds with it, but we are going to have to create hours and hours of content to reach the kind of scale we're looking for, and to help people again understand they need the work and then be ready to take it on and have the knowledge and understanding that, okay, this is what I need, this is how you support me, and not start with one goal and end up with another because they didn't understand it from the beginning. So I would say those are our biggest challenges for sure.
Mm. Ooh, I'm loving the self-awareness. Okay, that's
We're
the best
self-aware.
way to finish on. No, I love it though. I think a lot of people don't realize how and it's funny though, because you're never going to get to the point where you can call any one of these aspects as perfect. It's just not going to happen though. The closer you get to it, the more realistic it is that you're going to create something new, a new version, the
Yeah.
next thing, right? It just doesn't work like that. But Anna, you have an amazing story. I love the fact that you're full-time on this. You're building something great. So I appreciate you sharing this story with me and the audience. And if we have anybody who's listening right now and would like to maybe get in touch with you, just follow the journey or become a client for you guys, what is the best way for people to get in touch?
Yes. So to become a client, you can literally just go to abx2.agency/contact. We kept it really simple. You can also apply to join our team there. And that is the easiest way to get in touch with us. In terms of actually following the journey, as you mentioned earlier, I have my own podcast. I'm launching a new part of my consulting, and I do a lot of that work on my LinkedIn. So you can add Abdullah or myself. I'm just Anna Bullock on LinkedIn. I took that handle. It's easy to find me. And I post a lot, not only about what we're doing and how you can get in touch with us or specials we have going on, but also every Wednesday, except for if I don't feel like it, I post a Building in Public series where I talk about whether it's the agency, the podcast, my own work, what I'm building, the challenges I'm facing. My kid is sick with 102 fever, but I had to take 7 calls today type of content. And you can find a lot of value there if you're not at the point you're ready to become a client or seek that support. So yeah, that's what I would say. Love Your Business Mom, the podcast, abx2.agency/contact, or just find me on LinkedIn and my other socials. My DMs are always open. You're always welcome to add me and say, hey, I have a question, and I'll probably answer it for you. So
Beautiful. Anna, thank you again. It was a pleasure to have you on here. Great
thank
conversation.
you. It was so great to meet you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Now, to our listeners, if today's conversation inspired you as well, make sure to subscribe to Founders Future on your favorite platform. And also, if you're a business owner, more specifically a consultant or a coach, or you have an agency and you're trying to scale the business and really enhance both your sales and marketing efforts, also visit closers.io. Get in touch with our team and discover how exactly we scaled our company from 0 to over 30 million per year in less than 3 years. Until then, keep on crushing it, and I'll see you on the next one.